if I'm hard to understand or I talk too fast or if you just needed to hear something again, just call me out. Just say, hey, can you say that again?
I've done other sipping paints, but this one was nice. I like the energy in the room. I like the freestyle and being able to do whatever you wanted, like paint to your expression. That was fun.
You know, Christina sitting next to me, her painting. I thought it was like a hippopotamus.
I'm a little skeptical about my painting, but I'm not an artist. I'm here for the wine, the charcuterie board, and just a little relaxation with the girls. So, check, done.
I am painting trees with branches. Where some of it did not look like trees, you know. It was, when you look at it, it looks like something else. But at least I tried, though. My first time. Water on my head. It felt real soothing. It's soothing. Let me say that. It's soothing. This thing that they're saying that this guy is coming in to tape me. I beg you, I don't know about that. Where they had to cook your JJ. Cooking your JJ. Look, it was hot.
This is a very much needed spa. I really had the best time of my life.
I mean, the steaming, at some point I felt like I was about to have an asthma attack. It was kind of a little bit overwhelming, but yeah. But overall, it was a great experience. I mean, you're talking about dead skin? I was really surprised when the lady showed me some dead skin. I didn't know I was having some dead skin. I thought, you know, as a cute lady, I'm not supposed to have that, but unfortunately I do.
The whole spa experience was very relaxing. It was soothing, and the customer service was top-notch. So I really enjoyed it. I'm not sure about you ladies.
I also really enjoyed it. It's amazing. I think it's the top of the line. And this is like I'll call this a hidden gem because the spa experience was so amazing. I did the Yoni spa. Yoni smoke because they are using that Ethiopian herbs. So you really smell the herbs. The Yoni spa experience, I needed that. The tension that you have, it just relaxes you. It was so amazing. I would just grade it 10 out of 10.
I had a great experience also. I mean, we learning about, you know, kind of African traditions, and you know, she was very knowledgeable, and if you asked her questions, she had no problems like explaining like what she was doing and what she was using, and she was really proud of her heritage and sharing it with us, so I like that.
I feel relaxed. I feel smooth. had my little scrub. It allowed me to relax. The steam, this was the first time I did a steam room because I usually run away from them. So it was good.
Your
I
hair
liked
looks
it
pretty.
and it really relaxed me. This is what we need
Right.
to get away sometimes and just detox from the regular day-to-day.
My goodness, yeah, now they're rubbing my back, and one of the representatives just came in telling me that Jojo wants to film me. I was like, what the heck? Why is Jojo trying to come in when I'm naked, like naked? But I guess the show has to go on. I was covered in towel. I was so ashamed of myself.
Christina ain't doing too good. She's not doing too good. But Jojo talk about he's coming in here. I was in the military, so them guys open the door all the time while you're taking a shower. So I'm good. Whatever. You want to come in? Sure. But Christina is not taking it very well.
If you're a very shy person, don't come because you're gonna have everything out there. Everything. When I say everything, I like everything. But it's mostly girls though. Yeah. So we had fun.
Yeah, that's true. And I think this is something that every provider should have time to do, especially with all the challenges that we face on a daily basis. Like for me, one of the challenges that I faced was my transitioning from into nursing pretty much. You know, as you all know, nursing is not for the faint of heart. You know, and I can speak from my own experience. I'm not trying to undermine any other nursing program out there. The nursing school that I went to showed me shege. You know, if you guys know the meaning of shege, oh my goodness. But transitioning from a non-science major into healthcare was the biggest thing I've ever felt. I remember those days that we have to prepare for checkups. It's one of the things that you have to prepare for at the first and second semester, early in the semester. The skilled assessment alone is like pretty much like, if you don't know the definition of anxiety, that is where you know what anxiety is all about. You're talking about, you know, having to go to the bathroom almost like 20 times before your skill checkups. And also, it was an experience that pretty much will humble you. You know, and aside from that, I remember those nights that I have to pull all-nighter, you know, studying so hard for my exams. I'm the kind of person, I remember vividly, I will pull all night without sleeping at all and then go straight to the exam hall. Afterwards, I come home and I crashed. But not everybody can do that, you know, but these experiences have actually shaped me to who I am today. And I can say that I don't know how to pretty much like cope when it comes to, you know, challenges, but it pretty much like taught me ways to cope with some challenges whenever it arises. How about you?
For me, the challenge is for me transitioning from nursing to being a physician. That was really tough for me because as a nurse, going to school, I mean, I'm not saying that it wasn't difficult. It is, but when I did medicine, I mean, it's like I was reading, you had to prepare for a test and you have, I would say, 4 Bibles and you have to prepare for a test in a week. And you're looking at the books and you're like, oh my God, how do I do this? So because of that really, I had not studied like that in my life. So that really brought me anxiety. And I realized one of my clinical rotation, I think if I remember vividly, it was neurology. I was giving a presentation and I suddenly had this overwhelming feeling just over my entire body. Then my voice was just tremoring. And I was like, what is going on? You know, the attending who was a male, you know how they downplay female sometimes like, what's wrong with you? Is everything okay? You know, so I humbled myself and I really tried to finish that presentation, which I did, but I hopped on the next plane. I was in New York back to Atlanta and I saw my primary care doctor and I was so grateful. She was a Morehouse graduate. And when I saw her and she said, what is going on? And I told her just what I had. She's like, you know, I'm so happy you came to see me because sometimes people use other things to help with that anxiety. But she gave me Celexa. And I was like, why are you putting me on this? People will think of me that something is wrong with me. She's like, no, I took that when I was in med school and I urge you to take that medication. And I did. And I realized I needed that medication to really help me to balance, you know. So I took it basically for almost 3 to 6 months, and then then my body adjusted to the type of studying I was doing, to the load that I had in front of me, you know. So it's very, I mean, that's why I say I urge people, when you're having anxiety, see your doctor. See your doctor. It's nothing to be shy of. It's nothing to think that something is wrong with you, because we, as physicians, with our busy schedule, we do have a lot going on with us. Don't see us with these white coats. You think everything is perfect. We just have lives just like you guys, like everyone. And we have to deal with it the same way everybody deals with it. You know, so what about you, Star?
Well, nursing wasn't my first choice. Actually, when I graduated from high school, I was like, I'm not going to college. I just want to work. I'm good at school. I just didn't like school. So, you know, I kind of just worked jobs. I actually did like banking for the most part of my adult life before I went to nursing school. And then I don't know, banking just was kind of like it didn't, you know, someone coming to the bank and they can barely got money in their account, and they want you to like sell them a mortgage. Like, I'm gonna sell this person a mortgage. You know, he's overdrawn. So it just wasn't fulfilling for me. But with that being said, because I was older, starting to going to nursing school, it was kind of like, I don't know, everybody, when I was in my, I did my prereqs at a community college, and everybody was, you know, trying to get into college. And I think Georgia State had like a waiting list, and Emory is Emory, and I couldn't afford it. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to wait, you know, to get into school. So I ended up going to school like an hour away. I went to school in Columbus. So I had to drive to school. I drove 100 miles both ways, at least 4 days a week to school. And I had a little Nissan Sentra that was kind of like on its last legs. And I had kids, and so I had to work. So I worked at Phillips Arena, like in the cash room, and then I would work there. And luckily, because I was in the cash room, I was able to kind of like study and do my you know, and you know, do my job, but also do my work for nursing school. But with that being said, because I was in Columbus, my school was in Columbus, when I had to do clinicals, my clinicals would start at 6 a.m. So I would have to be on the road by 5. So I would get off of work at 1 a.m., take a nap, 5 a.m. on the road. And I'm not a studier. I don't study. Like, I just can't. So I have to go to class. I have to hear people tell me what I need to know. So it was like I was always in class.
Wow.
I wasn't, you know, people say, I go to class, I come back, I go to work. So that was the challenge. But I remember when I first started my prereqs, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's all
It's
right.
okay.
It's all right.
It's okay.
When I first started my prereqs, it was a teacher, and he would say that, you know, when you start your journey, you know, it's going to be stuff that's going to hinder you from your journey. And he said sometimes it's not even bad things. It's like something good may come along that'll stop you from your journey. And he was like, every time you think about it and you think about quitting or getting up, you have to say, how bad do you want this? So I would get up and I would replay in my mind, like, how bad do you want this? And so that's what, you know, kind of got me through going to nursing school and waking up at 5 a.m. and driving 100 miles and driving back and, you know, still taking care of my kids and
Wow.
all that. But You know, nursing changed my life. It changed my kids' life, so it was like, it was something that, you know, it was a learning experience. It was hard, and but it was like, I did it. Like, you know, I did it, and I graduated, and I didn't have any issues, and I didn't have any problems with my grades, and I was able to, you know, be successful in nursing school and be successful as a nurse to this day. So it was always, and I'm always appreciative of that. And now when I go through anything, I always say, "How bad do you want this?"
You want it. That's a good
And
way
so,
to look
yeah.
at it.
That's
Sorry.
very encouraging. Thank you for
That's
sharing that.
encouraging, very
Thank you so much
encouraging.
for sharing that.
That
with
brought
us.
tears to
Yeah.
my eyes. Oh gosh.
I think it's so important to hear stories like yours because I think my biggest challenge, well, I had many, but the one that stands out to me is the natural culture of medicine and the hazing that goes on in medicine. And you don't, as a attending or a provider, you don't know people's life. You don't know what they're going through to get to that class or to get to that clinical. And you have to take that into account when you're deciding to like embarrass them in front of everybody on the floor because you want them to get stronger at their presentation. And, you know, like seeing the human side for people who take care of humans so much, we are the worst to each other when it comes to working with each other, dealing with each other. I think going from nursing to medicine, my biggest thing that I didn't expect to be a challenge was the loss of autonomy. I had been a nurse for 14 years. I had been in different countries nursing. I'd done so much. And then I come to med school and they're like, you're like everybody else in here. Or I go to pre-med and it's like, you know, like you just, it's humbling. It's very humbling. And then the hazing, some people think it's a necessary evil. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. And as a doctor, I purposely make sure and treat all my coworkers, all my staff, no matter what your role is, as human, because I know that is what I wanted when I was going through the process. And I think it's important. Like, I don't subscribe to you need to scream at me or you need to stick it to me for me to learn the information and for the information to stick with me through, you know, the clinical or through my career. Like, you can talk to people normally and find other ways to teach them that's not so harsh. And I think that was my biggest challenge that I didn't expect to face while going through the process. Made it through, of course, but you know, it still sticks with me, and so it's just so hard to, it's just, you're so strong. You're so strong.
And to that
And I
note,
applaud you.
I think sometimes because of that, I would say that because of that residency training and because of the rigorous training that we get, people, sometimes your partners or the people that are close to you might think you don't have an emotion. You do. You do have an emotion, but it's because you've been trained so much that you can't show emotions as you take in patients. So I'm not saying that it's something that we do intentionally. It's just, we just know that if something happens to you, you just have to like get on and move on, because that's how, that's what it is. When you're seeing a patient, someone calls you, something has happened, it doesn't change what you're doing. You have to finish what you're doing because at that particular time, your patient is your priority. When you leave the hospital, then you can face whatever you are going to face. So, I have to say that because people always think that we don't have emotions. We do. It's like we hide our emotions. I remember in residency, you will go through things and you go into the bathroom and you cry wash your face. By the time you come out, you've put your white coat on like nothing happened, because that's what you're supposed to do. That's the training that we go through. So just to add to what you're saying, it's very rigorous. It's very rigorous training in medicine.
Wow. And also to buttress your point, I think we have something similar. Like my journey in nursing school was almost similar to Star's journey too. I remember when I went to school, my nursing program was like about 5 hours away from home. And I remember having to leave my kids, my 3 kids. My youngest then was 8 months. You know, I had to leave him behind because at that moment I felt like I had to do what I had to do, because I was trying to get them, like give them a better life. And I wasn't gonna let anything stop me. It wasn't as if I didn't really think about their, you know, their condition leaving them, but I felt like the decision that I made as of that moment is something that everybody will benefit from, you know, at the end of the day. So I left them at home, went to school, and I was coming maybe once a month to cook for them, to check on their well-being. And I cannot tell you, that was one experience that I had too. You know, I was coming from school, I was driving Nissan Quest, one of those old Nissan Quests then. That Nissan Quest broke down in the middle of the highway of nowhere. You know, like all you see are big trees. And I was like, Jesus. And I look at the time, it was almost like 6 p.m. And I was like, who do I call? In the middle of nowhere. But thank God I had a roommate. You know, and I was already like maybe about 2 hours and some into my journey. So I called my roommate and she was like, Auntie, where are you? I said, I don't even know where I am. I'm just stuck right here. My car is not moving anymore. Do you know the lady drove all the way to come meet me?
Wow.
Yes. So she was able to call her dad. Her dad got us a mechanic, somebody to, you know, tow the vehicle to the nearest mechanic shop, and we had to go to our parents' house to stay overnight. You know, people just look at us, but they don't know what we've been through before we get to the end of the journey.
Right.
It wasn't for the faint of heart, like I did mention. You know, we put in a lot of sacrifice. And I cannot tell you the number of times that I had to cry in the program. I'm telling you, if you know you're not mentally, physically ready, aside from being academically sound, you can't go into it. I'm not trying to compare the nursing program with the medical, because I haven't been in the medical, your med whatever, but I can tell you that every field has their own, you know. And nursing is definitely very tough.
Yeah.
Very, very tough. I just felt like,
Very
you know,
tough.
unlike now that everybody wants to do nursing because of, you know, the job stability and the money part of it. But I felt like it's a field that you really have to be prepared for mentally, and ask yourself, do I really want to do this? Because I feel like nursing should start from home. Nursing start from home. If you can't really take care of your home family, there's no way you can provide good care for other people out there.
Definitely correct.
Right. So, I mean, thank you for sharing that experience. You know, we've all been there and we can relate, and also encourage other people that are still looking to become a nurse or maybe a medical doctor one day.